There's actually a different type of ad. It's called an infeed ad. And these are ads that appear in search results or alongside other videos as suggested videos. So you can run these infeed ads, and it's a totally different type of ad experience. And a lot of people don't even really know that you can do this on YouTube. And it's a fraction of the cost of the other type of ads.
Getting on the Inc. 500 list is impressive. Being number 60 on the list is even more impressive. Being number 87 the year after that is almost unheard of. Today, I'm talking to Aleric. He knows all things YouTube. We talk about both growing a channel and YouTube organically and also running YouTube ads. We go from strategic to nitty-gritty tactical. If you've ever wanted to know the details about YouTube or are looking for another ad source or a way just to drive traffic, or you want to be entertained, Aleric is a great interview. Let's dive in. Aleric, I appreciate you coming out, man.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Brad. I'm excited to dive in. It's gonna be awesome.
Love it. So you are in Austin, which is fantastic. Yet, like most people in Austin, I have a hell of a time pinning down the Austin people while we're in Austin. I tend to cross paths with you elsewhere more often.
Yeah.
Let's start at, most people I think know you from ad outreach. And you've been under 100 on the Inc. 500 twice, right? 2001, 2002, you were 60 and then 87. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we were number 87 on the Inc. 5000 in 2021, and then in 2022 we were number 60.
Got it backwards. Awesome. So that alone, I think, for anybody that's building a business, is you can't bullshit it, right? You can get on a lot of lists, but the growth list is always an interesting one. So I want to talk about the growth of that. But before we dive into ad outreach, let's talk about the beginning. So what I didn't know about you was your background with YouTube. So can you kind of give me the how you came to be story?
Yeah. So I actually started on YouTube 14 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. This was
super crazy.
In July of 2009. And still very early in the platform. I was also pretty young at the time too. So I'm 26 now. I was 12 years old. I had a video camera. I was filming with videos with friends, and originally I was posting some videos to YouTube. And then in July of 2009, I created a YouTube channel called AppFind. And that's when I really dove in and actually started seeing YouTube as a business. So I was reviewing mobile apps, tech tutorials, teaching people how to use their iPhone. At the time, I had a lot of family in my life who was asking, how do I use this new iPhone that I just got, or this new technology?
Wait,
or what's
how old were you?
I was 12. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I created a YouTube channel to originally actually, kind of teach my grandparents how to use their phone, teach, because, they live like further away. And so I was sending these videos, and I also wanted to show some of my friends, what are the best mobile apps. And at the time, all the main apps in the App Store were, paid. Like now, obviously, it's all the kind of in-app purchases, things like that. But at the time, it was all, you'd pay $1, $5, $10. And so I was buying some of these apps and figuring out which ones were the best, and then reviewing them on the channel. And so I started to get a lot of people watching these videos, and I got hooked. People were watching the videos. They were excited to see what I was talking about. And it was just really cool to see people actually going in and caring about what I had to say. And also in the videos where I was teaching people how to use their iPhone, they were finding it really valuable. So the channel really started to grow at that point. And before I knew it, when I was in high school, I hit over 100,000 subscribers, and my YouTube channel was already making over $60,000 a year. And I just saw it as, I'm just growing this. But I remember I was in a high school history class, and and I was talking to a couple friends, and I wasn't even really trying to brag. I was just saying, oh, hey, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing my YouTube channel. And, the teacher in that class overheard me talking about it. And he said, 60,000 a year, there's no way. And I'm like, yeah. And I pulled up the stats and showed him. And he just kind of turned white. He's like, that's more than I make. And that's when I really realized that I had something big. And, I do believe, teachers are, underpaid, especially really good ones. But at the same time, like I realized, wow, I have something special here. And I continued it through to college. So I went to UMass Amherst. And when I went there, I wanted to find a college that I could continue to growing my business in addition to doing my studies. And I had started to hire actually people into my YouTube channel, just other college students. And I got a script writer, video editor, somebody to do business development, because at the time we were getting over 100 inbound emails a day. And these were mobile apps. These were different companies. A lot of them wanted stuff for free, but a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, can you feature our app or product on your channel? And a certain percentage of those would turn into actual paid sponsorships. So I did hundreds of sponsorships on this channel, which is pretty big amount. And so I learned the business side of YouTube, which I think a lot of YouTube content creators, they don't really learn that side until much later. And some still don't fully grasp that side. And so was kind of my foray into the marketing and seeing, wait a second, I have an engine here. I have all these people that watch my videos. And if I talk about a mobile app or if I talk about a product, there's going to be a lot of people that go and download or buy, that product or app. And so I realized I had something special. And it was, I remember it distinctly. This was about 8 or 9 years ago now. I was like, it was very early in college, my freshman year of college. I had a mobile app that sponsored me for a video. And I published a video on AppFind on my YouTube channel. It gets, a few thousand downloads. The developers are ecstatic. They're like, this is great. Can you post the video again? Can you just go ahead and re-upload it? Like, well, they're going to pay me, I think, like $500 just to post click post on the video again. And I had to tell them that's not how it works. You can't just post the same video to the same channel, the same audience, and double the results. But what if we take that video and we run it as a YouTube ad? And at the time, not a lot of people were running kind of, YouTube ads for smaller businesses. It was mostly kind of Geico and Ford and the big companies. And they did have the ability in Google Ads to run YouTube ads, but not a lot of people were doing it at that point. And so,
in what year is this?
This was in 2015. Yeah.
Awesome. So look, before we transition, because I see where we're going here,
yes,
I want to talk about the growth of the organic channel, because today, I mean, YouTube is a much more mature platform today, right? And it is more clear to certainly content creators and now also other brands that this is an avenue to grow an active subscriber base. And potentially, I mean, not even potentially, it is very clearly an alternative to entertainment. The younger generations go to YouTube to get entertainment instead of the traditional media platforms, whether that is ABC, NBC, the old school stuff, or it's Netflix, Hulu. Now it's let me just go to YouTube. But rewind to 2011, which is when you started, less so the case. And I think the younger generation, some of them saw that, but building that channel when you were that age, I find hilarious. I also find the 60 grand conversation with the high school teacher hilarious. Though I will say that you mentioned the value of teachers and them being underpaid. In no uncertain terms, you were teaching, just different subject matter.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And ironically, probably more practical subject matter than what you had in your high school history class.
Yes.
So that's all super interesting to me. Were you at the time deliberately growing it, or was it a game for you? Or how did you look at it when you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16?
Oh, that's a great question. I was deliberately growing it. I was hooked. I wanted to grow it as quickly as possible, and I wanted to build it, bigger and better. And it wasn't necessarily about the money, because I was taught, my parents really taught me from an early age to kind of save money. And later, I learned more to invest and things like that. But, I wasn't really like going out and spending a lot of it. I was on some things for the business. I was actually more, reinvesting into the business, but it was more to see how much I could grow it. And so it was a game. At the same time, I knew it was also a business, if that makes sense. It was kind of a combination between those two, because I was really looking to grow it. And I had always been fascinated with business. And even before that, like I had the classic, like the lemonade stand, but it's kind of funny. I had when I was 7, 8, 9, I did like kind of the classic, like, and I think like 10 or whatever, like I did the classic like lemonade stand. So there was a swim and tennis club on our street. We didn't, belong to that club, but there was a lot of people that were walking up and down that were going there, walking down the street. And so in the summer, what I would do is I'd set up my lemonade stand and I would make, fresh made lemonade. I would cross sell to other things. But then in the fall, what would happen is less people would be walking down the street to go to that swim and tennis club. And I still wanted to sell my lemonade on the weekends. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, where do people go in the fall? And then it hit me, they go to yard sales and garage sales. So then what I did is I had like the paper and I was looking for the garage sales and yard sales.
Amazing.
And then I would go and knock on their door. And I had some experience with this because I was in, Boy Scouts and I was like, selling like popcorn and stuff like that or whatever, door to door. So I would go and like I'd knock on the door and I'd say, hey, I saw you have a garage sale coming up in a few days. Can I sell my lemonade at your garage sale? And eventually the pitch evolved into like, they'll stay longer, they'll be refreshed, and you can have as much lemonade as you want. And so, I would go and just set up my little stand there at some of these yard sales and sell lemonade at the yard sale. And I went where the people were. And so I think that was an early, me being exposed to marketing is, figuring, and also, kind of deals in business and almost like a joint venture is going where the people were.
I love that. We pull that in a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious. And also sort of the fundamental of a joint venture.
Yeah.
Right. It's the beginning sign of it. There are obviously two lessons there. One is go where the traffic is. But how old were you when that was the case?
So I think with that one, the specific, I think I was probably in the 8, 9, 10 range. I know I was doing lemonade or like the lemonade stands many summers in a row. But I think that was on the later side. So that was probably 9 or 10. Yeah.
Crazy. So when you talked about growing the channel, can you give us trajectory of the channel and what the ultimate end is? First, is the channel still up?
Yes, the channel's still up, and actually, there's a pivot that we just made that's really exciting.
Tell me about the numbers before you tell me the pivot.
So the numbers. So it took a long time to get the first 1,000 subscribers, like what a lot of people say, and that's really the thing is just keep going at it. And it also didn't make any money at all, like zero money for the first 2 years. So that's the other thing too. Not that I needed that much of 12, but basically it did take time to build it up. And I remember getting to the first 1,000 subscribers was the hardest initial milestone. Obviously, it did take longer to get to 100,000, but there was more momentum at that point to build it up. But essentially, I don't remember all these specific dates of when I hit the different things. I do know when I was a sophomore in high school, that's when I hit the first 100,000 subscribers. But essentially, between that point in time of like launching it when I was 12, and then by that. Whatever it was, like 4 years later, it had gotten up to about 100,000 subscribers. So it started to really snowball. And it really started to take off with my iPhone, I think it was like 4 or 4S, content, where I was doing full beginner's guides. And these were hour-long videos. So these were talking to the teaching. People weren't doing this, right? Even Apple themselves, they had a couple videos on their website, and then they had a gigantic user manual. But people want to watch videos to figure out how to use something. So I created a full, complete beginner's guide. So a lot of the other tech, and there were a lot of tech YouTubers, even at that time that were starting to pop up. They weren't as popular as they are today, but there were tech YouTubers that were coming up. And even those tech YouTubers, they would only talk about, these are the latest features. They would treat you like you were already a tech enthusiast, as opposed to the average person that doesn't know how to use, all these features, especially in the early days of the iPhone. This might be their first smartphone. So I still look back, like I have taught millions of people how to use their iPhone for the first time, which is something I'm pretty proud of. Like
that's crazy.
I think the iPhone 7 video is the most popular video with 8.6 million views.
Crazy.
Which is, so it's pretty cool. And teaching people over the course of an hour-long video, every single step, and doing what other people weren't willing to do, like putting in the extra work of creating a full video, releasing it for free, and you'll like this. So one of the things that I did to monetize it, so of course I had ads on it, but from YouTube. So I got in the YouTube partner program. By the way, I applied. I didn't get it until the fourth time I applied, because at the time you had to apply.
Yeah.
And you had to fill out a whole application. And they rejected me 3 times. And it was a little discouraging. And then the 4th time that I applied, I got it. Then I had to convince my dad to like co-sign on it, and he did, which was really awesome. And because I was under 18 at the time, and then I was able to make money from the channel. But with those iPhone beginner's guides videos, what I started to do was affiliate marketing baked in. So what I partnered with several different apps, and also use the referral programs too. So some I reached out to the apps, some I just leveraged the existing referral programs and affiliate networks. But essentially, I would teach people how to download a sponsored app as the first app that they download. So there was a grocery shopping app called, it was a grocery shopping app called Ibotta. And we drove, I think, like over 50,000 people. And at one point I had one of their growth people reach out to me, and they said at that time that we were their biggest non-internal marketing source at that time.
Wow.
Which was crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, which was pretty cool to see. And I was making a good bit of money from that. And then I had other applications and other things that I was promoting. So those were kind of the revenue streams, were the YouTube ad revenue. There were affiliate deals. So it was per install, whether that be through a referral program, through direct affiliate relationships, or an affiliate network. And then the third was direct sponsorship. So that was kind of more simple. We'll pay you X amount to be featured on the channel.
So where are we at now with subscribers?
Yeah, so 550,000, a little over 550,000.
Love it. So that's early days, and we talked about how nobody was doing large scale, like hour-long videos and guides. I think 2 things are, one thing that's very true is people are tired of sort of corporate bullshit. And so part of why YouTube videos work so well is because they're relatable. And they're, at the same time, you need somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, right? It can't be laying on the couch looking like a slob and not articulating the points clearly, right? You still want something that is a good guide, but people want a relatable video. The question for me now, you said several times nobody was doing it then. Well, now a lot of people are doing it.
Yes.
If you were to do that again today, how would you do it differently? What's changed in your eyes in terms of organic YouTube growth for a channel?
So that's a great question. I would do what we started doing later, is realizing what our hit show was, or hit piece of content was. Not that I was thinking about it as a show, but that's kind of how I see it now. So we still have the YouTube channel. I'll get to that in a second. So essentially, and also part of this was I was a student during this time. And then I also launched which I'll get to a little bit later, launched Ad Outreach and kind of systematized the YouTube channel and still grew it. So, but I had kind of put systems in place. So I was focused in other areas. But if I wanted to, and if I could go back and double down, which I don't really necessarily have regrets, because everything I did got me to this point. But if I was to change the strategy, knowing what I know now, it would be to double down on the content that I knew worked the best. Because there were a couple different, there were 3 types of content. There was the complete beginner's guides that got millions of views, and those were the big videos for the channel. Then there were individual sponsored videos. Now those sponsored videos, I think that it's a double-edged sword, which I realize now, because every time I do it, it did chip away at the audience. And I think there was a time, especially when I systematized the channel, that I was doing too many sponsored videos in a row because people were paying thousands of dollars to feature their app. And so I would do like a dedicated video. I think that knowing what I know now, I'd probably do a little bit less. I would have done less of that, because I do think that can erode some of the core viewership on the channel if it gets too promotional, which I think, especially during my college years when I was looking to maximize revenue, I could have taken a little bit more of a long-term look at that point. And then the other thing, the other show was kind of the app spotlight. It was the best apps of the week. And that one, I think that I loved doing it. It was more of a passion, but it also didn't get as much traction, didn't make as much money, and required the most effort. Between that and the dedicated videos, it required a lot of effort and work, almost as much as a beginner's guide, because it was kind of very edited. And so what I would have done is just what we did over the last year before this new pivot. is double down on beginner's guides, but I would have done it a lot sooner. Realize that that was our secret sauce, is teaching people how to use tech as a beginner, as a complete beginner. And that's even like the kind of the term that we use, the complete beginner's guide. And what we've been doing, what we did over the last year is we started doing like Amazon Echo, complete beginner's guide, right? Complete beginner's guide to the Pixel phone, to Samsung phone, like all these different phones and devices. And had I gone more the channel route, I would have wanted to have done that from an earlier standpoint, realizing that this was my hit like show, and put a lot more effort and focus into that, and created a lot more content that was getting those millions of views. So
yeah. So what I heard was you had 3 structured types of videos, and all videos that you made funneled into those categories of what you were doing. And one of those categories was a clear winner.
Yes.
In terms of getting traction, in terms of getting views.
Yeah.
And ultimately, views meant monetization, not only from the native platform, but the capacity then to get sponsorships, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay, so what are you doing with it now?
Yeah. So now, what we realized is, at the time, the channel was very successful because of the huge growth of apps. And what we see now is we're shifting more into 2 things. One, the complete beginner's guides, and we actually started that a year ago. So we're still doubling down on that. So essentially, we're making complete beginner's guides for every possible thing. So Apple TV, Roku, like all these different devices, complete beginner's guides. And those are long tail videos. The thing with those videos is it's like planting a tree. When you do an individual review, or you do a roundup of the best like apps, typically those will have a certain life cycle. Whereas the complete beginner's guides, I still get views on complete beginner's guides for like the iPhone 10, which is crazy. But also, sometimes that's in other countries that might be just getting that, and other people that are just getting that phone for the first time. And so essentially, we're making complete beginner's guides consistently. So that's one thing that I changed a year ago, is I hired our first like actual employee at AppFind. And somebody that I've known for a long time that's in the kind of tech ecosystem. And so I hired him, Justin, to just create content, create the videos, to level up the content. And then what we just pivoted to this summer is now doing AI content. And I see AI as the new apps. And I see AI as the new opportunity to teach people something that is brand new, it's emerging. And in addition to products, and we're still going to continue to teach people their tech products, but now we're helping teach people the best AI tool, like help them find the best AI tools, and then teaching them how to use those tools. So we have a complete beginner's guide to Photoshop AI. It's brand new. A lot of people don't know how to use it. And that's the type of thing that would be really valuable for somebody that maybe isn't as tech savvy. Maybe they're not even as Photoshop savvy, but we show them completely how to use the new Photoshop AI. And so that's where we're going into, is AI, and then also beginner's guides for top consumer electronics products.
For clarity, and I think you answered this, but you mentioned making content about AI, not making content with AI. Are you leveraging AI to make the content for YouTube as well?
So we're leveraging AI to edit content, to help us with thumbnails, to help us with, and we'll get to this in a second, but I have a software keyword search that does AI YouTube ad targeting, but it also does like AI keyword research for YouTube, and like helps you find topics to create videos for. And so we're using AI to inform what content to create, but I'm seeing more and more people doing, and it's actually, it's really interesting because a lot more people are realizing the success that YouTube channels can have. And so I'm sure you see this. There's a lot of people that are doing faceless YouTube channels. They're doing kind of AI automated YouTube channels. We're actually going a different direction. While a lot of people are doing that, I actually feel that you need to zig while other people zag. And so that's why I actually doubled down on the quality of content by hiring a full-time content creator that is able just to produce high quality beginner's guide content. Because for what we're trying to do with Complete Beginner's Guide, I don't think people want to listen to an AI voice or watch like an AI video. That said, we can use AI to help us with edit videos faster, come up with video ideas, content ideas, tags, titling, descriptions. So all of that, we use AI to empower it, but we're not using AI to actually create the exact content. And that's with a specific reason. I think for this channel to get to 1 million subscribers, which is the new goal. And again, ad outreach is my main focus, but I have 4 businesses. So AppFind is one of the businesses that I care about growing, and it's also sentimental. It's like the first business.
Sure.
So to get it to 1 million subscribers, I think is by doing 2 big things. One, doing complete beginner's guides for all of the top tech products and consumer electronics, and have those be long tail videos. And then the second is to kind of pivot the app-based content into more AI-driven content, and teaching people how to use AI, so beginner's guides for AI, and then doing roundups of the best AI for specific things. And then we're already seeing a lot more interest in sponsors who have AI tools and technology to sponsor the channel as well.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that all of that is relevant to most businesses because thematically, from a marketing perspective, one, it's leveraging the YouTube platform, but 2, it's leveraging trends that are happening. And so the shift from guides to just tech to guides to AI, there is just more search traffic for AI at the moment, right? And there are a ton of new potential sponsors, right? AI companies are spinning up all the time. So if that's the goal, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for tons of companies, you can leverage trends that are going on just in terms of how they overlap with your space, right? It doesn't even have to be independent AI. It could be AI with mortgage companies. It could be AI with software platforms, whatever. Okay, so 2015, a sponsor approached you with the YouTube channel and said, hey, just run this again. And you're like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, exactly.
But how about we run it as an ad?
Yeah.
And that, I'm assuming, spun into what is now ad outreach.
Yes.
So you ran that sponsored video as an ad, and where'd it go from there?
Yeah. So we took the $500 that they were going to pay us to post a video again. And I had to convince them to do this too, which they're going to give it anyway. I put the $500 into ads, all into ads. And I dove in. That was the first time, I was diving in and doing YouTube ads. I had actually experimented a little bit with some channel growth stuff, but that was the first time actually having any real kind of ad. And I set it up to drive to the mobile app page using the, all the tracking codes, all the stuff. And so what we did is ran that $500. And in 1 week, we got 11,000 users for their app.
Wow.
Which was, they were blown away.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of an intermediary. So there's the developers we were working with, but there was also this performance marketing company that was kind of in between the two of them, that was kind of connecting them with all the influencers. So that performance marketing company saw the success of that. So we kept running those ads for that app. But then they said, hey, we've got another app. And so then we do another promotion. Then the performance marketing company said, all right, we've got our biggest client, one of our biggest, businesses. Can you run the ads for that? And I did, and I can't necessarily say on the podcast what the company was, but it ended up becoming a unicorn company. It was pretty cool. Now, but I didn't run all the ads for it. Just to clarify, I ran certain YouTube ads with the influencers that they had. That being said, the performance on that was pretty remarkable, and we were spending over $1,000 a day. So I went within literally months of just starting to run YouTube ads to now running thousands of dollars a day for what would become this kind of unicorn company. Again, I was working through the performance marketing, so I didn't work directly with that company. But essentially, this performance marketing company saw the success of all of this. And even YouTube at the time was still that YouTube organically was fully emerging in that 2015. That's when people were really realizing, oh, YouTube's a big thing. But YouTube ads were still, that was still new. And so that's what I was really diving into. And so essentially, this company called me up, the performance marketing company, and said, Aleric, I want you, and this was my freshman year of college, drop out of college, fly out here to Silicon Valley, join our team. We'll give you, the 6-figure salary. We'll give you stock options. You could be the YouTube ads guy. We're all in our 20s. You'll fit right in. Let's make this happen. And it was tough, but I turned it down because I wanted to build it myself. I wanted to build my business myself. And I, started doing some more YouTube ads for certain mobile apps. And then that next summer, in July of 2016 is when I actually founded what became Ad Outreach. At the time, it was App Outreach. It was promoting mobile apps. So originally, I saw this as, oh, I can promote mobile apps really well. And I essentially went in and started to do YouTube ads for mobile apps, just tapping all of these different app developers I was working with. So I created this kind of email marketing campaign. Every sponsor I'd ever had, I reached out to them and I said, hey, we now have this ability to go and promote your mobile app using YouTube ads. And here's some of the results that we had. Here's some case studies. And we got, a couple dozen like clients from that. And so we started running YouTube ads for a variety of mobile apps with millions of downloads, a bunch of different apps. And then what ended up happening was, as I was promoting all these apps, I go to a conference. I go to the HubSpot Inbound conference in 2016. So that was like November, December of 2016. I go there, and that's when I saw the ClickFunnels booth, right? And so I remember just because I was only promoting mobile apps. I also wasn't seeing myself as like a internet marketer, online market. Like I was seeing myself as I was a YouTube, I was seeing myself still as like a YouTube content creator that knew how to run ads. And I was also building this other business. Maybe I was starting to see myself as a little bit of like an agency, but essentially I went to that conference and I went to the ClickFunnels booth, and I remember talking with the people there, and they were talking, and I was telling them some of what I was doing, and they were telling me, if you know how to do that, if you know how to run ads, you can just run ads to a funnel. And I'm like, what's a funnel? Then I started learning, okay, this is, here's what ClickFunnels is. Here's what a funnel is. And so I set up, I leave with a ton of ClickFunnels swag. I set up my first, my account, and then I didn't really know what to do from there. So I had the software and I built my own landing page, but I didn't really know what to do. And so that's when I started Googling and searching for, okay, how do I, use ClickFunnels or funnels to promote a service business. And that's when I came across a company, Traffic and Funnels at the time, that was like kind of a consulting company. They were teaching people how to use, or how to like grow kind of consulting businesses and coaching businesses. And it was like a high ticket offer. So I remember getting on the phone, and I had never encountered like a high ticket offer before. And I remember, they talked about what the investment was, and 9,800, whatever it was. And I was like, all right, I need to do this. And I remember at the end of the call, person on the call was like, hey, like if you do this, it's going to like, change your life. And I remember, oh, this is going to be awesome. And so I ran to my entrepreneurial professor. I was in, because this is my sophomore year of college. Still in my dorm room. I ran to like my entrepreneurial professor. I've had this opportunity. And it's kind of funny because I look at it now, like if I think about my sales team and stuff, and this is why I always say, like, hey, if people say something, or whatever, like everybody has their own thing. Like the objection I gave is like, I got to talk to my entrepreneurial professor about it. But I was really serious about, like, I wanted to do this. And so I run across campus, and I'm really grateful for him. He's Professor Burton Cowden. And I asked him, I said, like, hey, like I've got this opportunity to do this. Should I do it? And I think a lot of other professors would probably be like, what's this all, but he said, if you ran across campus to ask me about this, you should do it. So I went back, hopped on the phone, was like, let's go, let's put it on my Amex or whatever. And let's rock. And because at the time, I think I was actually still doing everything like sole proprietorship. Actually, no, I launched the business. I had the business at that point. But anyways, because of the app find stuff I was doing, things just through. When I had the business, I had the account or whatever. But anyways, so I just basically, got started on there. And that's when I got into this, kind of mastermind. And the mastermind, originally I was joining to figure out how to reach more app developers so that I could create a funnel and drive YouTube ads to a funnel that would then show new app developers that I could help promote their app, because I kind of tapped my warm network. And I was still getting clients from that, but I realized that it was a little hard. I also didn't know how to package things. So I made some of the classic mistakes where I was like, including ad spend and some of the stuff, and like all the kind of some of these like early mistakes. So I didn't have a mentor at that time until I started working with this mastermind and working with, the people there. And so what I did was I figured out how to package my things together and then create a funnel to in a webinar funnel to actually sell my services to app developers. And then they had a whole training on Facebook ads. I'm like, I'm just going to do YouTube ads. So I did YouTube ads to this webinar funnel to get app developers, and it just took off. It started working really well. And I was signing more app developers. But what started happening is everybody in the mastermind started like, how are you getting this success? How are you getting so many people, on your webinars, booking calls? Like, how are you growing your revenue? And I was like, oh, well, I'm doing the whole process, but I'm doing YouTube ads instead of Facebook. And nobody knew how to do that. I even had people kind of laugh that I was doing YouTube ads for conversions, because there was a time, because this was even before YouTube rolled out there was a certain point when they rolled out kind of lead-based ads where you can optimize for, like, where it automatically optimized for leads. I was just manually optimizing for leads. I was going in and, like, because at the time it was like more CPV, like cost per view bidding. So I was going in, all right, what's generating conversions, what's not, like cut the stuff that doesn't, scale the ones that do. And I think that early, having to do everything manually helped me and informed me on how to actually train businesses when it's automatic, because I know what the algorithm's doing automatically.
Yeah.
Because I did it manually at one point.
Yeah, I think that one of the significant missteps for early entrepreneurs is relying on tools to do things instead of understanding the fundamentals. Because it's only in understanding the fundamentals that you have the capacity to see if the tools are doing things right.
Yes.
Beyond a Million is brought to you by Easy Pay Direct. If you're an entrepreneur and you are still using a product like Stripe or PayPal to accept payments, it is time to find out why the largest names in your industry would never consider doing that. Check out easypaydirect.com/BAM to find out more. And you have no way to diagnose and you have no way to optimize and improve yourself unless you actually understand the fundamentals, which takes repetition.
Yes.
That's great. So you basically YouTube creator, selling sponsorships, then you're like, oh shit, I can sell to the sponsors to do paid ads for you.
Yes.
Which was really, you had a sample set of one and you're like, oh, I should do more of this.
Yes.
But no functional sales and marketing background at that point until you got into this mastermind that sort of gave you the framework of a funnel, a structured approach to lead conversion to client.
Yes, exactly.
Love it. So there are a couple things that I think are weird here. One is that you seem to put a lot of stock in your entrepreneurial professor. Do you think that's because there weren't other mentors there, or like looking back on that, and you obviously still think very highly of him. Mm-hmm. I generally, when I hear professor at a school teaching business, not all, there are definitely great ones. Most of them are teaching or teaching classes at a school because they don't have practical experience and they're teaching philosophy, right? It's not like they have a multi-million-dollar company running, most of them. Yeah. And there are definitely exceptions to that rule. And there are definitely retired, super successful people that want to teach and give back.
Yeah.
In retrospect, when you're looking at mentors now, you had the mastermind, which is a mentorship. Oh, yeah. And you look at that professor, did you vet him? And does your approach to looking for mentorship now change, or has it changed?
Oh, that's a really great question. So what I would say is I think there's two answers to the question. I do think that in terms of finding mentors, you want to find people that have done what you are looking to do and can help guide you on that path, or have elements that they don't have to be the exact path that you're on, but they have different things that they can provide and mentor you on so you can get there. So I do think it's really important to vet mentors and to have mentors that are more directly aligned with where you're looking to go and are, in the field or recently in the field. I think with this entrepreneurial professor, though, what made him different than other ones is he had a background with his family business, and he was running his family business kind of remotely. I don't have all the details, but he had a kind of entrepreneurial background with that family business that he kind of grew up with, and then that he took over and was managing. I believe he was managing it remotely. I don't have all the details. I don't think he was like the CEO, but he was like owning kind of and managing, kind of think like board style of that company. And I forget the exact type of company. I want to say it was like a printing or like some kind of logistics company, something like that. But essentially with him, what he was trying to do was build an entrepreneurial environment at that university. And the big thing, and one of the reasons that I went there was actually talking with him versus other schools, because I had actually gotten into some other schools that might be like, more, kind of quote unquote prestigious or whatever, but actually, UMass actually climbed the ratings or whatever. But basically the Eisenberg, business school I went to. But basically, I got into some of these other schools, and some of them, and one was like one of the top entrepreneurial colleges, and I went there and I was talking about my business, and they said, well, the business is great to get you in, but you're going to be focused on your, classwork. Like, you're not going to continue your business. What are you, versus at Eisenberg and UMass Amherst, I talked with that professor, and what he said was, you come here and we want to champion you. Like, we want you to grow this business while you're in college. And what he ended up doing, so I also think that he was helping. He was like, you want to find mentors wherever you can. And I think there's mentors that serve you at different points in time. And I think that he was a really good mentor that served me in a time when, maybe a lot of professors would have you focus on your classwork or be more theoretical. He even built a class. So he was there through while I was at that university, and he even built a class specifically for me and a few other entrepreneurs. But originally, he kind of said it was like for me, to just allow us to work on our business, because they had this weird rule where you could get an internship and earn credits, but if you had your own business, you could not count that as a credit earning activity.
That is the dumbest shit ever. The former approach is so irritating to me.
Yeah.
The notion, this is like academia for the sake of academia. It's this stupid institution of we're important because we learn.
Yeah.
And if you don't apply, are you really fucking learning?
Yeah.
And the answer is probably not, right? And if you are, you're learning theory, and you're not learning how theory intersects with reality.
Yeah.
And the best way to learn is to apply it right away.
Yeah.
So I love the latter approach, which is no, if you have an entrepreneurial program, you should be immediately leveraging it in your business to see what works, what doesn't. And then we can talk about it, right? Yeah. Anyway, that's how I would run an entrepreneurial program.
And so what he was able to do is pave the way inside of the university to figure out how I could actually do what I wanted to do with my business.
Love it.
So there was a class, then there was like an advanced class, and there was a summer incubator.
So I can see why that would be attractive to you and why you would listen to a person like that.
Yeah.
When you look for, let's keep going in the story, because you mentioned that you didn't have a mentor going into it early, and then you found the mastermind mentorship.
Yeah.
And that sparked ad outreach. But let's fast forward, because that was 16. And then, hitting very good numbers on the Inc. 500 list happened in 21.
Yes.
What was the pivotal point there, and what kind of what do you think caused the significant growth?
Yeah. So there were two kind of shifts that came together to cause the growth. So essentially, in 2017, what I realized through this mastermind that what I could do was I could help people, not just mobile apps, but I could help all kinds of businesses with their YouTube ads. And that my expertise wasn't how to market a mobile app with YouTube ads or market a mobile app in general. It was how to use YouTube ads. And also I had developed this skill because I was doing it for myself and then for other people, which was YouTube ads to drive webinar registrations. People were showing up way more than Facebook ads because it was video to video, right? So they're watching a video on YouTube, they were signing up for a webinar, then they were watching the webinar, then they were taking action. And so all the metrics just way outperformed what people were doing on Facebook. And so essentially what I was able to do is start running YouTube ads for different businesses. And this was still an agency model. So I was running these YouTube ads for these different businesses, and I was growing it as like an agency. Then I had this kind of pivotal moment when I realized that I had to choose different, not that I had to choose, but to scale an agency is a very different thing than scaling kind of education and training people. And I also found that my passion was more in training, which is also kind of what I did on my YouTube channel, like you said, right, is educating, teaching people. Mm-hmm. And what I realized going into 2018, this was the big pivot that helped us really take off, is that I could consult and train people on my YouTube ad strategy and impact and work with far more people than I'd be able to scale my agency. So if I had to scale the agency, there was also a lot of things that I did not know, and I eventually learned as I scaled my other business, but it becomes more of people game and having all these different, instead of having more of the ability to have a tighter knit group that can train at every step of the process and help our clients implement. And so what I did was I actually made the pivot in 2018 to really go into a done with you, so done together model, which at the time, there wasn't many people doing that necessarily for like ads as a whole. Now there's a bunch, but like at the time, there was a lot of agencies and there were a lot of courses, but there wasn't, and there were mastermind programs that might train a little bit in ads, but there wasn't really many that I knew of programs that were training ads as that was like the program is like, you're going to fully master this and it's hands-on, not just a course, not an agency. And so that's what I was able to do was go in and hands-on train people in my YouTube ads methodology. And that got really great results. And so that started, we ran our own YouTube ads to bring people in. Then also there's word of mouth as well. And so that started to grow. And that's really where the rocket ship took off, was at that point. And I then started building out the team and, hiring more people. And then in, 2018, I graduated from college a little bit early. And then I, really took it to the next level.
That's awesome. It's awesome to be straight out of college and launching into 8 figures, number 60 on the Inc. 500.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the pivotal thing, it sounds like, was what the product was, and done with you being the case. And it's funny because you said now there are a bunch of them, but I don't know any of them. And I think that's an interesting like major asterisk in the statement, because when you are in your own industry and vertical, it's very easy to see all the noise in the space, and you lose sight of what the external buyers see.
Yeah.
And the message that you put out, if you can show up the right way and break through, you might be the only thing that they know.
Yes, that's true.
And I think that's a valuable lesson for everybody. So done with you, easier to scale than an agency.
Yes.
Why do you think that outperforms, or do you think it outperforms just courses? And if so, why?
Yes. And so it's better for us, and it's also better for the clients. And the reason that I say that is there's different stages that clients are in. And we can kind of help with every step along the entrepreneurial journey. So essentially training a business in YouTube ads or their marketing, that's the lifeblood of their business. And I think that the challenge is a lot of people, they're kind of in this false dichotomy of thinking that they need to figure it all out on their all by their own, on their own by themselves with a course, or they need to have somebody completely do it for them as an agency. And a lot of the time, the problem is, with courses, it's kind of one size fits all. So it's not custom tailored specifically to them. So they need something more customized to figure out, okay, how do I actually implement this? Or, having somebody looking over your shoulder and saying, oh, you got to make sure that, like, for your business, you got to click that button, or you should really do this. And as they have questions, actually going in and helping them, that's something that's really important versus a course. Versus an agency, I think the big problem is with agencies, oftentimes it's siloed, right? So you kind of hand stuff over to the agency, and the agency will run ads, but you have your business over here, the agency's over here. And the problem is they're not necessarily fully into your business unless you have a very higher end boutique agency. There are, strong agencies out there, but the problem is like 95% of them are not. It's like by nature, right? There's a top 5, and then there's like 95%. And unfortunately, a lot of people are working with these agencies that want to do the very bare minimum to retain them as a client.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. And then what we want to do is train our clients or their teams hands-on, so that they themselves, in an early stage, early entrepreneurs, right? Like you said, it's really important for people, especially as they scale business, to understand all aspects of their business. Yeah. So early entrepreneurs, we train them directly. Mid-stage entrepreneurs usually will train maybe an operator, or will train like their first marketing person, their first marketing, director, media buyer, or whatever. And then at a larger stage, we're training full teams, right? Yeah. So we're training like a media buying team or a marketing team.
Yeah, I love that. So 2 things on that. One, I say this a lot about agencies, but if you are very good as an agency, you're inaccessible, or you're selling your own shit, or you're doing a rev share.
Yeah.
Like that's it. If you're very good at driving ads, performance-based, you are participating in the upside, or you have your own company and ads is not the primary mechanism. Yeah. what you said about the rest, the 95% that are doing the bare minimum for their clients, that is how most agencies scale, because it's how can I put the minimum amount of time in to take money from people. And they have no connection to the outcome. It's like, we don't really care what the outcome, I mean, you do because you want to keep the client, but you get paid either way. And that's super irritating to me. But the other thing that you said, that as you talked about sort of the engagement with people from a done with you, now I have so many thoughts on this, but one is you are training your internal staff to be able to go past, even if you had a great agency, you're tied to them. And if you can train your internal staff to do it, then you have the expertise to be able to execute internally. The third that I thought was interesting that dawned on me right away was information products, the implementation, and even the I'll say access and usage to info products is sub 10%. So you put out a course, of the people that buy it, less than 10% actually even look at it, much less implement it. And when you do a done with you, you've got some level of commitment to absorb the information and consistently have these checkpoints to make sure that's happening. I think that's a great lesson for anybody that's just randomly putting out content, is how do you get people to engage with the content and keep coming back to the next thing. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So that's making that shift in 2018. And that's also when I graduated from college. And then in 2019, that's when I really started to kind of build things up from there, because then I got an office in Cambridge at the time, and because in the Boston area, and I got kind of an office there, started hiring more people. I met in college. I brought on Julia, who's now our COO, and she was like kind of wore tons of hats. It's like our doing all the operations and everything. And so she was employee number one when we both graduated, and brought her in, and then hired our own kind of like other people. So we basically started building up from there and actually making it into more of like a full on kind of bigger business, right? So we had our copywriters to like write scripts with our clients, train them how to do it, but also like help them write those scripts. We had our YouTube ad strategists, and we started building those up so that we had multiple of them that could go in and train our clients. We then started building out our operations team, our sales team, like all the different different areas. The funny thing is, the thing that I let go the latest was the marketing. For a long time, I was just running all my own ads, which I think a lot of people who are in the marketing stuff definitely can probably resonate with that. But then building out the marketing team as well. And so building out all of the different teams within kind of those are the four prime areas: the client success, the marketing, operations, and sales is like the main departments. And so kind of building out all those different departments, and that's when we started to really look to scale up and grow. And at that point, it really was a matter of, we were running our own type of YouTube ads for a long time. It was to a webinar. We still have webinars that perform really well, but we also have like other PDFs, other lead magnets, things that like bring people in, and VSLs, things like that. But essentially, running YouTube ads to, at the time, our kind of core webinar. And just, it was really a matter of scaling that up. And I remember I was at an event. This was so in 2019. I was at an event. It was like a Jay Abraham event. It was in Paris. We were in this like kind of, it was at the Ritz, like the Ritz-Carlton, Paris. And so it was like this like gold room everywhere. It was like, really, really fancy. And I remember that Jay was doing like hot seat, and I got on the hot seat, and I was pretty like excited, because at the time I was spending like $25,000 a month on like ads, on like YouTube ads, and we're bringing in over like $200,000 a month. And the interesting thing, and there was actually two big lessons that he gave me. The first lesson, I was more about like a sales team. So like I was like how I was enrolling at a like almost double the rate of like the salesperson I brought on, and he gave me a really good lesson around the time, like you spending your time on that. Yes, you're the owner. You're going to, and obviously I'm paraphrasing. He said it in a very, in a much more of a Jay way, but basically, if you're spending your time on that, you could be spending your time on higher leverage activities that could be really pushing the business forward, not just on these individual sales calls. It's not scalable, right? So if you have more sales team members and then they can go in, even if they're at that lower percentage, ultimately you'll still yield more over time because you're leveraging your time. So that was the first lesson. But then the second lesson came from talking about where the numbers were at, because part of what I was saying too is like, he was then like, well, can you scale? Like if you brought it, like what does that scale look like? If you brought in more salespeople, let's start like mapping it out. And I was telling him that I was spending this, 20 to 25,000, filling up myself and a salesperson's calendar, and we were bringing in this like $200,000 a month. And he said, well, why not spend 50,000? I was like, wait a second. So I had this wheel start turning in my head, and so he taught me a really, really valuable lesson that I think is a massive golden nugget takeaway that I had, and hopefully anybody watching or listening will have a big takeaway from this. Is he taught the lesson, and he taught this to the whole room too, but I was like on the hot seat there, of risk arbitrage, where essentially, because I said, well, I don't know, like I've just kind of scaled more kind of, consistently. And I definitely had experiences of clients that scaled like really rapidly. And it was interesting sometimes like looking at your own stuff. And we scaled overall, but we were getting such high returns on the ads that like, it was one of those things that I was looking at like scaling the output as opposed to the input. But what he brought up is the idea of risk arbitrage, where essentially if I hired a couple more salespeople, and my concern with that was that they were performing less than me. But it's like, listen, like if you hire a couple more salespeople and you have some salespeople, even if they're performing at half the enrollment rate that you are, you're still going to have more leverage because they can take more calls. There's only so many that you can take, and you need to push the business forward. So if you bring on 3 salespeople and you fill up their 3 or 4 salespeople and you fill up their calendars and you spend double, what's the maximum risk and what's the maximum upside? So what's the maximum upside? What's the absolute best case scenario? So I said, okay, well, the absolute best case scenario, and he's like, even if if it's not possible, just like best case scenario is like we double, completely double, and it goes like we'd make 400,000. But I said like there are degree diminishing returns. We do have like an area of where we know our sweet spot is, and so it might not be quite that. So then he said, well, what's the worst kind of case scenario, or like, so what's the worst case scenario? I said, well, the worst case scenario is if we were at an actual inflection point, which I don't think we are. Like, I cannot see us making any less than an extra $50,000 to $75,000 from that 25,000. You see where this is going, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, so your worst potential scenario is you double the money that you put in, the 50,000. And then on the other side, you have a best case where you make an extra 200,000. And he said, I would do that all day long because that's risk arbitrage. You have a uneven risk versus reward. Your potential reward is very high. And then he also asked me like, what do you think is going to happen? I said, probably somewhere between 100, 150,000, of additional potential revenue. It actually ended up being, it was around like $100,000 of extra revenue by doing that jump, knowing that also I had the sales team and, their performance wasn't as strong as mine. And so that's what ended up happening. But essentially he taught me this lesson about risk arbitrage that still carries with me today is, potentially actually risking nothing. But he even said, even if you lose the 25,000, that versus the 200, like you're risking very little or even risking nothing, but you stand to gain so much more. And if you can find those opportunities in business, you seize them. He said, I always will take that opportunity. And that's what I ended up doing. And then that I took into 2020. And yes, it was a month or the month after that, like whenever I think I had to hire a sales team, and then I implemented that. And we ramped up to 300,000. And then now it was, then we kind of got into like, all the stuff in 2020. And things getting locked down, and then that's when we started really massively scaling. And by the end of that year, we had gotten to 900,000 a month in 2020.
So what I heard basically was spend more, even if margin's going to get compressed.
Yeah, for what the overall, because you'll actually make more on the back end, more on the overall net side, and you'll also see that additional growth, and also. it's looking at an opportunity to have that risk arbitrage where if you take a bet and it's skewed in your favor, then that's a bet that you should take. You know, as opposed to something that obviously you don't want to take negative bets, but as opposed to something that's like 50-50 could go either way, you know, there's a much higher likelihood that this is going to go in your favor. And so that's a bet that you should take.
That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about the specifics of what you teach at Ad Outreach, because it's relevant to a lot of people. So basically you're teaching people how to leverage the YouTube platform to run ads for any business or a bunch of businesses. What are the fundamental steps of a YouTube ad, and how is YouTube different as a platform? What are the fundamental steps of creating an ad?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So YouTube, and I'll actually talk about how YouTube is a little bit different first, because then that can lead into what we recommend both on the actual scripting and then the actual, targeting side of things. So essentially YouTube is different than other platforms, especially like Facebook, because if you think about it, Facebook is very interruption based. So people are scrolling on Facebook, and you need to interrupt them with an ad. You need to get in front of them and capture their attention. It's very different, right? Sound's also off, so it's a different environment. And so they see that, and it's more about grabbing their attention and getting a potential click than it is actually having a piece of content that's going to educate them and take them on a journey. Whereas on YouTube, what's different is it's more intent-based. People are on YouTube and they're watching videos, and they're in one of two states. There's two reasons people go on YouTube. One is to be entertained, which we talked about. The other is to learn. Now, what we want to do is we want to target the people that are on YouTube to learn. And that's part of, when we get to the targeting, we'll talk about how to do that. But the people that are on YouTube to learn, they're watching a video. They're trying to figure out, okay, how do I set up my ads? How do I scale my business? How do I process payments? How do I do this, that, whatever it happens to be? They're watching these videos. And what you can do is reach them at the time, as they're in this, what I call a learner's mindset, as they're actually going and trying to learn. They're watching videos, they're learning, and you can get in front of them at that perfect moment with a video that they have to watch the first 5 seconds. Sound is on, and sound is a big part of the learning process. It's visuals, but there's the auditory. Like, what are you saying? And that's why the script is so important to the YouTube ad. What you're saying matters a lot more than what it looks like. And so people can see, they can hear you. They have to watch 5 seconds. So you can do a compelling hook. We'll talk about the script in a second, but it's a very different platform than Facebook. Now, again, I'm not like there's areas where Facebook can get people to kind of click quickly, maybe impulse purchases, like there's e-commerce things. But when you're selling education, or you're a coach or consultant or expert, YouTube performs really, really well. If you have something that's higher ticket, something that requires education, something that like you want to teach people, this is why this works the best. YouTube far outperforms Facebook because you can get in front of them on a video and educate them and get them into your world and your way of thinking before they even click on the link to then go to your site to opt in and then take action.
What I can see that being, I know it's very functional for a variety of businesses. Are there industries where YouTube is not the right choice?
So that's a really good question. And what I would say to that is there are, and especially lower ticket e-commerce, it depends. Now, I will tell you that one of my other ventures is an e-commerce business that I've also scaled on YouTube. But so it's not, there's exceptions to every rule. And part of that was actually to do that. But at the same time, the things that are like less than $100 are a little challenging unless they already have some type of brand, big market appeal. So for like earlier stage, let's talk about like a coaching or consulting business, or, a service business or something that's a little higher ticket. You can go right into YouTube ads and see a lot of success by targeting the right people. And, because there's a little bit more margin for error. When it comes to lower ticket e-commerce, and that's just with really any ads. It's not just YouTube. It's the same thing that you probably hear people say this all the time with Facebook. It's like, I think that people don't realize that with the ad side of things, that a lot of e-commerce businesses that are at a lower price point, sometimes they're just looking to acquire that customer and then make money on the additional sales.
Right.
And so if you have something with an AOV less than $100, it is going to be challenging because it's almost like you're bringing out the big guns. YouTube is educating, it's providing more value, like, versus you potentially with that could have more of an interruption-based ad. And a lot of people with e-commerce are shifting over to TikTok. And for a similar reason to what I talked about with Facebook, I wouldn't recommend that if you have something more complex that you're looking to sell, you're looking to target the right people, you're looking to educate them. YouTube's the platform. It seems to be that like some of the lower end e-commerce is going wherever the cheapest CPMs are, which I think actually makes sense at a lower ticket e-commerce at a very, very low like price point, because they kind of need to get that lower, cheaper traffic. But there's a double-edged sword there. It's not going to be the highest quality traffic for those businesses that are looking to actually educate consumers, that are selling something that's a little bit more expensive. That said, the flip side of that is if you have one of two things, either a strong brand or a strong marketing strategy that has a lower ticket, that you know what your numbers are and you want to diversify into YouTube, big opportunity there. And then the other, and we've had a lot, clients that do that. And the other is if you have a product that has strong margins, $100 AOV, and you also have the you also know that this is a product that's going to work well on YouTube. So I've got this like charging stand. It's like this $89 like iPhone charging stand. You can also see where this is going. Things are interconnected a little bit. That I launched on the AppFind YouTube channel, because originally I was like, all right, let's just launch this on this YouTube channel. I ended up scaling that up, and actually last December we ran 2 million YouTube views to the YouTube ad showing this like iPhone charging stand, and sold about 600,000 in December. And then after that, we ran into some logistics issues with China and stuff, restocking like the next batch. So now we're getting ready for the next Q4. So the general months is more like 15 to 20,000. Like it's not as high, but like in the Q4 we just ramped it. And I think that's the other thing too, is there's a seasonality with e-commerce where in Q4 you can really get some extra bigger ROAS, that I'm sure you know. That being said, I think that's the area that it's trickier. But for established brands or brands that have a specific strategy, you can see a lot of success, like I just talked about with even my own like side like e-commerce venture. But in terms of products so businesses that it works really well for, that's where I would say, so there's kind of the different areas. So there's like ones that you want to take a look at it. Drop shipping, I would not recommend it. I would not recommend because the margins are too slim. But even just in general with ads, drop shipping it's tough, as you know. So like lower end e-commerce, that's where you have to make sure everything's dialed in. Then there's kind of like the things that it works well for you. You got software, you've got different things that you're looking to sell online that are maybe a little bit more kind of packages or lower ticket. But then you have up here the things that work really, really well, like extremely well, are education, coaching, consulting, high ticket services, things that are a higher end product, service, or coaching or consulting, especially if education is required, because again, people are in the learner's mindset on YouTube, and you can provide that value.
Yeah, the common thread with ads in general, the common thread that I heard, and I think this is anybody that's scaling knows this intimately. The reason that high ticket became so popular, just high ticket everything, coaching, consulting, masterminds, is because you can spend a shitload on ads to promote that product, right? You can spend a lot more because all you need is one sale at $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, right? To make the ads work. And if the cost is, or if the product's $100 or $50, you can't spend very much to get that customer. But relative to all other platforms versus YouTube, the thing that stuck out for me there was education based. So you've got people that are there to learn. And if that is the buyer you're looking for, then YouTube differentiates that way. It's easier to educate through the ad than it is in other platforms.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So elements of the ad. So if somebody's putting together a YouTube ad, you have a framework for doing that. What is that? What are the pieces?
Yeah. So in terms of the framework for the YouTube ad, there's three main components. There's the hook, which draws people in, right? That's going to be really important. We'll talk about that in a second. Then there's the educate. This provides real value. And this is the part that's unique, really unique to us, is education, is providing value on that ad, which goes back to the reason that YouTube ads work so well, is because you're educating. So you want to do that on the ad. And then the call to action. The call to action, get them to take action at the end. So hook, educate, call to action. And I'll break these down individually. In terms of the hook, what you want to do is you really want to pull in your ideal clients. There's a few different ones. Question hooks are always really good. So what if you could, and I'll give you a few examples in a second. Like what if you could type hooks, or what if there's a way? And the best with those is to just answer your own question with your product or service or coaching or consulting or whatever it is. It's like, what if there was a way to, and then you're going to solve that because you're calling out people that have that problem or have that thought, and then you're going to go in from there. There's also ways to go in and create kind of more like bold statements or pattern interrupts. I'll give an example of that in a second, where you're just kind of saying a bolder statement and you're getting people's attention. You're making a real, you're making kind of a claim, or not a, but like more of like a specific thing. I mean to say, sorry, not a claim. It's more, you're making a statement. So the one that YouTube ads beat Facebook ads. I'll get to that hook in a second, which is like our all-time top performing hook. Or you're giving knowledge. You're like, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do this, right? So you're actually talking about how you're going to educate them, because people are on YouTube to educate. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can X, Y, and Z. There's also hooks as well, where what you can do is you can essentially give examples or case studies of something that has happened with maybe who that person is. It's like, I'm going to show you how these people have gotten this or done this. So there's opportunities there. And then there's also the ability to do kind of more funny and clever hooks, and people can kind of get creative with that. There's a few different types of hooks. What I love is the question, the pattern interrupt, and the more educate style hooks. I'm going to show you. And they all work for slightly different reasons. And then there's another one where it's kind of more of like a specific giveaway hook. I'm going to give you my $200 million YouTube ads like PDF as an example. But I'll give you a few of the hooks that have performed the best for us. One, our first kind of breakout hook was a question one. So it was, what if you could ethically hijack your competitor's traffic and send it directly into your own funnel? Well, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do just that using targeted YouTube ads, running your YouTube ads in front of other videos, driving that traffic for yourself. And that was the first ad that made us over $1 million, was running and scaling that one up. And I think, again, it's calling out a very specific thing. It's also kind of coincided with a lot of the rise of ClickFunnels. So I was speaking the language of people, and like ClickFunnels, we were also targeting people who were interested in like ClickFunnels types things, and it had funnels in it. And it was also thought provoking. What if you could do that? Then the one that is our all-time best performer is YouTube ads beat Facebook ads every time. Let's face it, Facebook ad costs are going through the roof. And even when you have a great ad, they're almost impossible to scale. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use YouTube ads to get consistent leads and sales for your business, get more consistent, dependable growth. And so that ad was the one that even just that one specific ad and that specific hook, that ad is an 8-figure ad itself. Now that ad, we've shifted to other types of like ads as well. And we had a certain period of time where we were really going us versus them on Facebook versus YouTube. We're doing less of that now. And the reason for that is, at the time, it made a lot of sense because people were kind of laughing at YouTube at a certain point. Like they didn't even really know that YouTube was like going to be the platform that people could scale and grow on.
Sure.
And so we had to tell them, we had to hit them over the head that like YouTube works better. Now what we're seeing more of is people that are actually looking to diversify. And so now we have a little bit more of that languaging. We also have languaging around, in this video, I'm going to show you our $200 million or $250 million YouTube ad strategy, and $250 million YouTube ad strategy that's helped us scale our business to 8 figures, number 60 on the Inc. 5000 list, fastest growing companies in America, and that we've installed in thousands of businesses, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. I'll show you exactly how this works, and then let me hop over my computer screen. Then we have other hooks that are like giving them a value, giving them a piece of something to take away. So I'm going to give you my 19-page $200 million YouTube ads PDF. me talk about how this works.
And what's the body? So those are a bunch of
Yes.
really good opening hooks, and you gave a few different specific frameworks.
Yeah.
What's the body? How long is it?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the CTA for it?
Great question. So in terms of the body, that's where you're actually educating and you're providing that value. And this is what a lot of people leave out. So a lot of people, when they create YouTube ads, is they just kind of have, hey, do you want my thing? Or, hey, here's a hook. Go sign up for my webinar. Go do this. And they do these kind of short ads, 30-second, 68-second ads. That's not going to be the best because, again, people are on YouTube to learn. So taking those principles that might work on Facebook or another platform doesn't work the same way on YouTube. On YouTube, you want to actually educate and provide value. And so that's where in the educate section, what you want to do is there's two main strategies for this. Really, there's kind of like, they fall into two main categories and there's different ways to do it, as well say. So one is to teach one specific thing or give kind of an overview. I guess it would kind of be three. Basically, one is to teach a specific thing, and there's two ways to do it. One is to teach a specific concept or give an overall overview of everything that you're able to do or help them with. And then the other is to give them what I call aha moments, golden nuggets, like epiphanies. So you're actually educating them on specific things. So like at the time, with us, like early on, we would educate people for the first time on how YouTube ads works. Like here's how, here's what targeting looks like. Here's how you can run your ads. Look at this. You can see this ad appears in front of YouTube videos, and we're going to walk you through step by step on how to do that. Now it's a little bit more focused on, you can run YouTube ads to the specific video conversion funnel that drives traffic here, and it's more talking about like the overall view of here's how this ad fits into every component. So it's educating them. Same thing with clients. Is essentially what you want to do is you want to provide real tangible value on the ad, either by giving 3 or 4 different specific smaller pieces of value, or one big chunk of value, which either outlines the entire process or it outlines one specific thing that they can learn.
And CTA, where are you driving people?
Yeah. So,
and does the CTA, does the body of it and how long it is does that vary based on what CTA you're offering?
Yes. So it will vary a little bit. That's a great question. So the call to action is going to be, you want to say it multiple times. You want to get people to click the link, and you want to get people to click the link, and you'll say it multiple times. That being said, you want to do that in a way that gets people excited and gets them to know this is where they're going to go next. So you do want to show on the screen where they're going. So you're going to get to a page that looks just like this, and you're going to be able to fill out your details, and you'll get instant access to whatever this training is or PDF is. If you're giving more of a lead magnet style thing like a PDF, sometimes those will be slightly shorter ads. So those might actually be, like 90-second to 2-minute ads. But typically, we'd recommend doing more, 3-minute long ads. YouTube also technically recommends 3-minute. It depends. It's a little bit of a trade-off. You might not get certain placements if you have a longer than 3-minute ad. That said, we see a lot of ads that are at 4 or 5 minutes, 6 minutes, that provide a lot of education and value that actually can outperform the shorter ones, even with YouTube technically recommending a shorter one. But we do like to, in general, recommend around 3 minutes long. So you want to have a hook that's typically going to be anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. Then you want to have the educate section, and that typically is anywhere from a minute to 2 minutes, and at least in that 3-minute version, could be a little bit longer. That's where you'd add more. And then the call to action typically will be 30, 45 seconds to get people to take action.
Have you ever done super long form ads, like fucking 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour ads?
So there's actually a different type of ad that is called an infeed ad. Mm-hmm. And these are ads that appear in search results or alongside other videos as suggested videos. So these are infeed. So instead of the ones that appear in front of videos, these now appear in search results on the YouTube homepage as you're kind of scrolling by, or alongside other videos on desktop as like a suggested video or a next up video. Essentially, these are actually ads as well. And so you can run these infeed ads, and it's a totally different type of ad experience. And a lot of people don't even really know that you can do this on YouTube. And it's a fraction of the cost of the other type of ads. But I'll explain the pros and cons in a second. This is what we recommend for longer form pieces of content and also for YouTube channel growth. So essentially, let's say somebody's looking up, how to process payments or whatever, for instance. let's say you had a longer form ad. So in addition to maybe running in-stream ads, it might be like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is, 2 to 4 minutes that then get people off to sign up for Easy Pay Direct. You could potentially have an ad or a video, could even be a podcast, right? So that's actually a really great way that this works too. I was talking with Joel Irway about this, is like the ability to use this for podcasts and podcast webinars. But essentially what you can do is you can take a longer form video and run that as an infeed ad. So people search, so they look up, all right, how to process payments. And then you appear in front of all the other search results, like kind of like a Google search ad, right? You appear at the top. It's the thumbnail, it's your title. It's as if they had just made the search and you rank number one, but you're paying for that ad. And so you could have like a complete guide to, how to process payments, dash like, Easy Pay Direct or whatever. And like you can click on that. And so now instead of whatever else would have loaded, you can click on that and you can start watching this video that exists on YouTube. You go to the YouTube watch page and now it's your video. And some people don't even realize that they clicked on an ad, or if they did, it's kind of like Google search where it's like, if it's relevant, they don't care, it's an ad. Now they're watching it and it simulates a normal user experience discovering a video. It could be a suggested video. They're watching a video, they're like, oh, I want to watch that. They click on it. Now they're watching it, or it appears in their mobile feed as they're scrolling by. It's like, oh, that's a video I want to watch. They click on it and they start watching it. And so that video then can be a longer form video, and that serves multiple purposes. One, it can actually help you grow your YouTube channel because people can subscribe to it, they can like the video, they can comment. It simulates, beside the act of appearing by it being an ad, it simulates them organically finding your video. So it can actually help your channel grow when done the right way. But in addition to that, it's also another way you can get longer form content in front of people, either for the first time to capture them. And so there's a strategy where you can do that and then retarget anybody who's watched that video with a more classic in-stream ad to then drive more conversions. Also, you can, of course, put a link in the description that people can click, pin a comment, all of that. It is worth noting, though, these are not conversion optimized ads. They're view optimized. So you're paying per view. So essentially, people will click on it, they'll start watching the video, but you're paying per view with this. And then there's also other strategies that you can do too, where you can retarget people. So anybody who's gone to your site, so for instance, people go to your site, you can retarget them with this in-feed ad, either for when they search for specific terms or just on YouTube, so it shows as suggested or as a home page video. And that can get longer form content in front of them. So one of the strategies that we use is we retarget people with in-feed ads of me on podcasts, kind of like this, for instance. And what we can do is we can run an in-feed ad for that, and then people can get to know me better. They can watch a longer form podcast. It just appears as they're scrolling through YouTube or on the suggested videos, or if they search for a specific search term. And now they're watching an hour-long piece of content with me talking as an ad. And that's one big thing that I was doing. I did a couple podcasts with Joel Irway, and we were talking about this because what I ended up doing is I did a podcast with him that was really kind of good. And it was also, he has got this idea around like I don't know if you've talked with him about this, but like he's got this like podcast webinar where essentially you can create a podcast that's kind of like a webinar, and it's kind of a sales enablement tool. It's actually like an offer that he has too. And so what we did is we made this podcast that's a podcast and it's structured like a webinar. So it's kind of like the whole process that a webinar would take. And then at the end, it has kind of like a call to action. And we ran that as retargeting, not as an in-stream ad that appears in front of videos that people watch, but more as an in-feed ad that it pops up, and drove tens of thousands of views to that and got hundreds of applications over a long period of time. So it wasn't something that we like blitzed up. It also wasn't a cold traffic. It was to warm and hot audiences. So either people that were conversions or people who had just seen any of my other YouTube content or my website or whatever.
That's awesome. I love that idea. Super helpful, man. So you've got other things going on. You've got a new keyword tool.
Yes.
I feel like we have to hit on that at least briefly before we wrap.
Yeah.
And then we can point people wherever you want. But tell me about the keyword tool. And I think I want to know what it is, but I also want to know why you had the diversion to do that. So you're, building a quick growing company that is has accelerated growth, that's clearly profitable, making money. why spend the time on creating a software tool, which I talk about this a lot, but creating software is a pain in the ass. So, can be.
Yeah.
and anybody that's listening that thinks it's not a pain in the ass, please let me know how you're doing it. Because I find it very challenging, and there's just ongoing things. So why do that in the first place, and what is the tool?
Oh, that's a great question. I love it. So it's keyword search, and it's keywordsearch.com, and it's kind of funny. I got that domain. It was a great kind of pickup. Premium, but like at the same time, it was really great. So it's keyword search. But basically, what we did was what I wanted to do was I kind of also had this draw to software because I'd seen all these the tech entrepreneur, like the software area.
Sure.
I was actually spending time when I first moved here to Austin about 2.5 years ago, spending some time with the guys now at Jasper and Proof at the time, and it's like Dave Rogemoser and Austin Distel and some of those other people. And I was spending time with them and seeing like some of their software, and I also got to front row seats to some of what they scaled up with Jasper, which is phenomenal, right? And so essentially, I knew I kind of wanted to do something with software. And I also was talking with Roland Frazier, who we both know from one of our masterminds that we go to. And I was talking with him, and I did his like private mentoring. So I work with him as a mentor. And I was really trying to figure out, how can I create like a bolt-on or acquire a business? Originally, I was going to acquire. So what I was going to do is there were these keyword research tools for YouTube that I had ideas for how it could be better, but also I knew I was referring so many people to them. And I had some affiliate arrangements, but also the biggest one wasn't really even an affiliate arrangement. So like, this is kind of weird. Like I'm sending, of the people that I'm bringing in, I basically tell them like, we need to like use this keyword research tool to find the YouTube keywords. Yes, you can do it manually. Here's how to do it manually, but like we got to use this. Like this tool is going to get us the best results. And it was also very like basic tool. And there was a few of them, and I reached out to all of them, and I wanted to acquire them. And I was working with Roland on this, and I was going to do, I had a whole game plan for, the acquisition, and I did like Roland's like legs program and all that stuff. And so I was going to go and acquire. And now I think he's got like Epic, but like at the time it was like leverage, exit, grow, scale. So essentially, what I did was I reached out to all of these different developers, and there was some interest initially, but then one by one, they were all not for sale, or
different software platforms.
Yeah, different software platforms that did keyword research.
Got it.
So I told, I think I was talking probably with either Dave or Austin about this. So I was talking with, I think it was either Dave or Austin, and I remember them saying, well, why not just build it yourself? And they actually had a developer that had recently worked with them that had transitioned off of their team, and just for various different things. And essentially, they said this person could actually be a really good fit because they're looking for something right now. And I connected with him as Greg, and we just like hit it off immediately. And I had the ability where I was just like, okay, I've got all these ideas for what a software can be, but I don't know how to build it because I'm not a developer. And he said, he's like a developer, and he had developed for a lot of different softwares, but he'd also wanted to like do more of like his own software too, but he hadn't necessarily found something that people actually wanted, or the marketing side. So I'm like, this is a match made in heaven right here. This is great. So I work with basically said, hey, let's build this up. A separate company, keyword search, co-founders in that company, and he came on as CTO, and and myself kind of like CEO, head of marketing as well, and along with ad outreach and kind of bringing the infrastructure of my team. And essentially, what we were able to do was first we just built a better YouTube keyword research tool, and that's what we did 2 years ago. So we actually launched. It was like July of 2021. So we launched 2 years ago. So I created originally, it was a keyword research tool. That's why also keywordsearch.com. And essentially we would have people look up, let's say they had like a weight loss offer, right? For instance, they would look up like weight loss. They'd find all these different keywords that they could target. So it's like best weight loss exercises at home, and these different things that people are looking up on YouTube or videos they're watching. So you go and target those keywords. At the time, the way YouTube worked, and YouTube's evolved, there's been a few big shifts in YouTube. The first was it was all manual. And I mentioned that before, where essentially you would go in and you would manually target your specific, so you would manually target your YouTube ads in front of specific keywords, and it wouldn't be conversion optimized, and you have to go in and like optimize it yourself. Then shortly thereafter, it became more kind of lead ad based, right? So you're actually optimizing for conversions. So you were running an optimized campaign for conversions, but you were still targeting content targeting. So you're running your ads in front of specific keywords or videos or channels. Then the evolution that happened, and it's kind of started a couple of years ago, but really over the last year, there's been an evolution towards audiences. So they actually removed some of the content targeting that you would be able to do before and added in more AI-driven targeting and audience-based targeting. So there's a big kind of shift in how YouTube ads are targeted. And it was actually something we were seeing coming. We were already, diving in and mapping out the strategy behind that. But what this meant is we had to go and build what are called these custom audiences. Now, these audiences, you can actually still build off of YouTube search terms. So some people don't know this. It's just not necessarily you're targeting that people searching that right now or watching that video right now. You're targeting people who have recently searched on Google or YouTube. It's called custom intent. People who recently searched on Google and YouTube for a specific search term or keyword, or they've gone to specific sites with the URL affinity. I know we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but essentially all you need to know is these audiences that you can build based on what somebody has done on Google or YouTube or what Google knows about them. Mm-hmm. And Google has pre-built audiences, but as we know, if you want to get the best results, you gotta, go in and actually customize this and customize the audiences. And so what we did was we evolved the keyword search software. So originally it was find the keywords, go in and do that. What we did is, and this is when things really started to take off with the software, last October when OpenAI, and ChatGPT just blew up, AI blew up, we got credentials with OpenAI, and we went in and essentially built what we call our AI audience builder. And this was the game changer for keyword search and also for our clients, because our clients needed this. We built a software that we needed. So that was also the thing too, is we didn't necessarily build a software just to build a software. We built a bolt-on business, as right. Roland would call it, so that we could refer our clients. Originally, I wanted to do what Roland calls a pipe wrench offer, which is like, hey, we're referring a lot of clients to you. Let me just acquire you, acquire a majority of a company. When nobody let us do that, we just built it ourselves. Then we just kept building on tools that were valuable. And so essentially what we did is this AI audience builder, you can go in and just describe your business. So here's what we do, easy pay direct, here's a website, we help people process their payments. And we work with like higher risk, merchants and a variety of different people, to make sure that they can process their payments effectively. And here's all the different things. And you obviously describe how you would do it. And you put all those details there and you click generate audiences. And what it'll do is you just put in like a few sentences about what you do, your website, which will crawl, and then the name of your company. You click generate. And what it'll do is it'll give you all of the different audience options that you can target, all the keywords that your ideal clients are likely looking up on Google and on YouTube that you can select. It'll give you interest-based targeting on Google. So these are the different interests that you should target, or pre-built audiences. Then it'll give you URLs that your ideal clients are likely going to. It'll also give you apps and YouTube channels. And you can take all of that and sync it to Google. So we actually built in the ability to select, okay, let's just use keywords as an example. Here are all the keywords that people are searching for. Let me select these keywords, and you just have to click them. And they're also topics, so you can just select the whole topic and then click sync to Google Ads. And in one click, you can sync it directly to your Google Ads account.
So love it. Awesome. Super cool. So I wanted to know about the tool, but the opening question was sort of, why create the new thing? Mm-hmm. And the answer was you needed the tool anyway.
Yes.
Right. So you were creating it for your own purposes, but creating it in a way when you realized that it was going to be difficult to buy one, creating it in a way that would serve you and you could spin off as a separate business. Yeah. It's always annoying when somebody tells the story of, oh, it was just fortuitous. I just found this guy that was an amazing software developer. And oh my God, and then it was perfect. It was a match made in heaven. But I think that because I hear those stories all the fucking time when
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, this magical thing happened and it seems like there's no way to reproduce it. But the frequency with which it happens indicates that there has to be a through line. And the through line that I see is relationships and also curiosity. So in kind of openness and communication. So you were talking to friends that you'd connected to by being a part of masterminds, community, and being sort of vulnerable about where you were and what you were doing. And so if you're not connecting with people on a routine basis that are better than you, right, or are accelerating in some way, and you're not sharing what's going on and what your challenges are, you don't come across those opportunities, or they're more challenging too. So I love hearing that, or trying to piece those things together after talking to lots of people that have these seemingly, annoyingly simple solutions to the problem, which is I just found an amazing person. The only other question that I have on that is, has it been distracting to the core business?
And I think that, so the answer I would say is probably yes. That said, I think one thing that was more distracting was actually going, and I'll get to this in a second, was a big learning lesson I had from last year, was going to and speaking at a lot of events was actually more distracting than launching the software company. So I would actually, if I did something differently over the last year, I would have reduced that, then as opposed to, and again, I also don't like to like everything's a learning lesson. I see things as a learning lesson. I think that the software is something that I was meant to do, and I'm glad that I did it, and I'm also ramping that up. And I think it's a part of the overall business. So I think that, like you said, I built it because I needed it. I do think that, obviously it takes a little bit from other areas. That said, I'm the type of person that just dives in and does all different businesses, or not all different, does all business. I love that bit, it's my life, right? It's I love diving in and creating different things within my companies. And that being said, I think that having the different businesses, there's two sides to it. One, I love the art of business, the game of business, having different things. They're also all interconnected, so they feed into each other. And so ad outreach is the vast majority of my time. And to the average person, I definitely put more than the average person would put into anything into ad outreach before you get into the other things I'm doing. So yes, I could, if I'm pushing myself, over 100% already to ad outreach, and then I'm doing an extra, 10, 20% to some of these different ventures, then I think that, at least in terms of what the normal person would do. Obviously, I'm not talking about time because you can't go over 100% on your own time. But basically, in terms of a regular input, if I'm doing that, I think that part of it is, yes, I could put more into ad outreach, but I think that I get more overall well-rounded business savvy. It's better for the collection of companies, the long-term vision that I have, which is not just ad outreach, which is to build, a bigger overall company that has a software, that has consulting, that has potentially different companies that we can market that are in our portfolio. So that's why I wanted to do, I told you, I almost created the e-commerce company as a challenge to myself because of some of those other, it's this is something I don't know as well. It was e-commerce. So I wanted to learn it. So I just made one. And it was interconnected with the YouTube channel. And so I think that type of thing is something that maybe I wouldn't do as much anymore. And I think that I've also kind of stopped right now, and I've been more focused on ad outreach and the software, and then app find and the e-commerce are kind of a little bit more in the background. And I'm almost more it's more, those are kind of more portfolio style businesses, whereas the ad outreach is the main business, very much the CEO, very much running all the day-to-day of that. And then keyword search, there's a lot extra, and that's kind of my if you would call it a side hustle or whatever, I could do that more at night and on weekends and things like that. And then those other couple businesses, those are more check-ins, once a week or whatever it happens to be. So I think that, and more strategy, higher level strategy. So essentially, to answer your question, I think that yes, it obviously does take away from if I was just doing one thing. But I also think that this makes sense for me to do because it has more of a well-rounded collection of companies. And it also gives me knowledge and learning in different areas like software and e-commerce and in a media business and in my main kind of consulting, done with you business. I think all of these play together. They're also interconnected, and I've set up boundaries. I think the thing that I did that I probably regret time-wise that actually took more time than even these different companies was last year I did a little bit of an event tour, and also we kind of joked about how it was kind of hard to pin down this interview. And part of that was I was gone like half of every month, like half the year, basically. I was outside Austin. So I was traveling all over, and I spoke at like a dozen and a half like events. And I had like, a couple of, like I had a bunch of events that I was attending as well, like even ones that I wasn't speaking at. And I was kind of doing like this little circuit of like different events and things. And I did find with that, and I actually made a Facebook post about this, being reflective. I spent a lot of time talking about what I did, which took away from doing the next thing, which I think is a dangerous thing when you go and you do like a speaking circuit, because I was like, oh, well, I scaled to, number 60, like fastest growing company. And we saw all of this, and now I'm going to go share that. And that was part of the experience that I had, but I also had like, because in the past I'd always share it in just a couple masterminds, but now I got invited to speak at more than that. And, I had to learn to turn down opportunities like that. And it was really cool. And I spoke at one of the largest marketing conference in Germany. I spoke at a bunch of all the TNC, all the different things. And it's not any one particular that I regret. It's more just doing so many and saying yes to so many different things and traveling so much and the switching costs of traveling. I think all of that took away a little bit from last year, which did slow growth down over the course of last year. And so I think that was something that was actually more challenging than the software company and more of a lesson. And that's why this year I've been doing a lot less events. I actually have been doing a little bit more because I do want to go out and speak and do stuff. So I'm actually doing more podcasts. Obviously here, this is in person, but like I've started building that back into it with some of the like virtual things. But I've been doing a lot less events.
Yeah. So. The never ending challenge of prioritization.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And controlling that, or trying to. Well, Aleric, this has been great, man. I appreciate you coming out. Where do you want to point people if they want to find out more about you or any of the companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And what I would love to do is offer a gift. Anybody who's watching, I put it on adoutreach.com/gift. It's our full 19-page YouTube ad strategy PDF. Generated multiple hundred of millions of dollars in revenue for our clients. The same strategy that we use. It's 19 pages, no fluff. It dives into exactly how it works. So we get into how to actually script the ad, the targeting, the audiences, everything. It's adoutreach.com, adoutreach.com/gift. That's my gift to anybody who's watching.
Love it, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sweet, man. Love it. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. I need your help. There are 3 places you can find Beyond a Million. The podcast itself, beyondamillion.com, which has some cool free resources, including a free course. And we finally launched the Beyond a Million YouTube channel. I would love it if you would go there and subscribe. And if you don't want to, you still would probably enjoy seeing the visual content. Check it out, youtube.com/@Beyond a Million.